Bryce Young measured in at a whopping 5'10", 204 pounds, 9 3/4 inch hands. So he didn't do any of the other like kind of drills or anything like that. So we don't have any shuttle numbers or anything like that. 40 times. He is 21 years old. He was born in July.
How much does he weigh?
204.
That's bullcrap.
From what I hear, he bulked up to 204.
Yeah, I know kind of buffets are running in Indianapolis, but they had to be some good ones because there's 0% chance Bryce Young weighs 204. 0%
in the games that we watched.
What was the movie where the guy's like weighing in for his boxing match and he has like a Twinkie wrapped inside like Wonder Bread or something and he's like shoving it in his mouth as he's weighing in?
Bricks in his pocket or anything like that? No.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
If he's not like those fishermen that were caught in like Ohio. Swallowing those metal. I'll poop them out. You know, like that's time.
So Bryce Young.
Those are award-winning fish right there.
Bryce Young is a fascinating prospect. So he's one of these guys in the Devy circles. He was a highly regarded prospect. He got to play pretty early on, started as a sophomore at Alabama. And all he did was produce. I mean, all he did was produce. I get it. The size is not ideal in the least. We're talking about one of the smallest quarterbacks that we've ever seen.
He's 5'10" and an eighth. I forgot the eighth.
You got to give him every little bit.
I bet he let his feet callus up a lot to get that eighth of an inch.
So he is.
How do you make your feet callus up?
I don't know. Walk on hot rocks.
Not get pedicures.
Rub them against bricks all day.
Yeah,
that would wear them down, right?
Run on pavement.
Eventually, they would callus.
Yeah, you're right. Eventually,
you got to start early.
Yes, this was a long-term plan.
Botox. I don't know.
Botox.
His feet are so swollen.
Those lip injections he goes to.
Not a single wrinkle in those feet.
Bryce, you want us to make your lips bigger? No, put them in my heels and my feet. And the balls of my feet.
It's gonna be some inserts, man.
Oh man, I heard about some guys that they would like have this thing where they would get their legs broken and then like extended.
Yeah,
and all
that's a
that
real
stuff.
thing. They break your bones. They put metal rods in there to slowly make them longer.
So what do you guys think about Bryce Young?
We're getting there.
So
man.
he was one of these
stuff, Jared.
This is why I'm here. This is why I'm back.
Shut the hell up.
Get back to the prospect.
Go back home.
So he's one of these guys that in Devy circles, you know, we have these quarterbacks that kind of come out of nowhere during a season. This was not one of those guys. He's always been regarded as one of the most talented prospects. He's always been looked at as an elite passer of the football. And watching his tape, he is a very good passer. He can hit long range, short range, intermediate, doesn't matter. He can make all of the throws. He obviously had a lot of winning games at Alabama. So there's a lot of things on the surface that to like about Bryce Young. But all of these prospects that we're going to talk about, even the biggest name ones like Bryce, there's all warts with all of them. None of them are these perfect, complete prospects. And for him, it's really going to come down to size. If he had come in at 6'2", which obviously he wasn't, but if he had come in at 6'2", 215 pounds, I think this would easily be, it's Bryce Young. He's the guy. He can do it all. But he's not. And so there are some very real concerns about, you know, can he withstand the wear and tear of the NFL beating? So I think that's going to be the big question. But we're talking about a guy that's thrown for nearly 5,000 yards at times. So, I mean, he is a legit passer of the football. But can he make it happen at the NFL level? We're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very well-accomplished player. 2021 Heisman winner. And that year, he set a record at Alabama with 4,872 passing yards, 47 touchdowns. Went on the following year. Numbers went down last year, only 33-28 at yards.
A few less games too, though.
But, two-time All-American, Maxwell Award winner, left Alabama second in career passing yards, second in touchdowns. He did this all in 2 years. Had a really good coaching and offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, who's now with the Patriots, offensive coordinator. He played in a pro-style offense. He can read defenses, moves in the pocket really, really well, shows really good anticipation. Some big-time fourth-quarter comebacks, which means a lot as well, to have the be able to stand in the pocket and bring your team back.
That's the NFL game right there. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to do that to win games in the NFL and just be a quarterback.
And don't get me wrong, he's not like a crazy athlete, but he's mobile. He is able to get out and make stuff happen.
At college, he was mobile. Good poise.
But we're not expecting him to be a running quarterback. At the NFL
oh,
level.
no. I'm not at my cons yet.
Yeah.
Uses his eyes well. Has that quick release, very accurate, shows the football smart, improvises really well, hence the fourth quarter comebacks there. Sure. Really good moving behind the line of scrimmage and making things happen. And, I mean, even though he's short in college, he only had one ball batted down at the line of scrimmage, which is good. My concerns, size. It's not just his height. Like I said, this dude does not weigh 204 pounds. He did
not play at 204. He weighed 204 pounds at the combine. He didn't do any of the workouts, which is always a red flag for me when guys don't even do anything. I mean, I know they're quarterbacks, but I mean, when you're going to the combine and you're all of a sudden weighing in at something that you don't look like you've played at, and then you don't do any of the drills, none of the running, none of the anything.
It almost discounts the weight completely.
It discounts the weight for me. Like I'm like, all right, you just put on phony weight, and it's bad weight, and you're gonna drop that weight.
Which by the way, quite a few running backs did that this year, even though they didn't weigh in well. So I'm really concerned about some of those guys when we get to the running back.
Look at Bryce's picture next to Kyler when Kyler's 207. Right. He's clearly 17 pounds.
Just completely different body build.
Yeah, so he's about 190. So that when you talk about like these quarterbacks that are smaller, right? Like the Russell Wilsons, the Kyler Murrays, they're stouter, right? They're thicker. They're more muscle there. You know, with Bryce, he's not that way. He's skinny. He's 5'10" and 1/8. That's a huge concern with me because ththese guys in the NFL, like Micah Parsons could hit Bryce Young so hard, his kids will come out with welts. Like that's how fragile he could be, right? Myles Garrett could like literally break him.
Myles Garrett standing next to that dude.
He could literally put him in his graveyard.
Yeah. Dude, so like seriously. Like, and I'm sorry, like I am sorry that is a concern for me. Is Bryce Young a really good quarterback? Yes. Like, and I hope to God he doesn't go the Colts because you know the Colts, which I don't think he'll go the Colts, but if he does, like the Colts gave up the second most sacks in the NFL last year. They gave up 60 sacks compared to like the Falcons, Texans, and Panthers. All three of them gave up only 17. So with Bryce Young, that has to be a concern for you, right? They has to be somewhere on your mind because you're hoping he could turn into the one outlier we've seen for a guy who's not as thick possibly is like Drew Brees, right? Like Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen, and he made it work. But we're talking about like a guy, right? Because I'm not using Russell Wilson. I'm not using Kyler Murray as examples. They're thicker than him. And that means something. 20 pounds means something. This is a quarterback that got hurt, his shoulder hurt, just getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So when we have these big NFL defensive linemen, they can hurt him. You mentioned his arm. To me, his deep ball, it's meh. To me, it's Mel. And if you look at his numbers outside the numbers and deep balls, like his numbers drop drastically there.
So this was something that I was going to note. I haven't gotten around to like kind of giving my spiel, but I know that you know the perception out there is this: he's super accurate. There were off target throws.
Sure.
And a few too many for me to be like, oh, this guy's ultra accurate. You know, sometimes it's a miscommunication between, you know, a quarterback and wide receiver. So it's hard to judge from just watching the film who was right, who was wrong, because you're not always seeing the whole picture, literally when you're watching film. So, you know, I didn't know the stats that you had read off just now. You told that to us like before the show here. And I think that makes sense. I think that in my brain kind of helps to explain some of the off-target throws that I've seen. And I'm going to have to go watch. I think all the games that I already watched, I'm going to watch them again and then watch them through that lens and make sure some of the off-target throws and see if they're outside the numbers. Because my suspicion is that is going to be the majority of where they were. Because I in my brain I had already noted downfield wasn't great, you know, as far as accuracy. Now I'm going to have to watch again and see outside the numbers.
Pay attention. Anything 20 yards downfield and anything outside the numbers, his accuracy slips.
Because to me, I had already written down, you know, kind of in my final notes that is this guy, you know, I have some questions about him. I like a lot of things, you know, size is obviously going to be everyone's first question. But my other one is he just like a distributor, like one of these guys that operates in the middle of the field and the defense can really just kind of ignore those outside areas and the deep stuff because that can congest a lot of stuff and make it hard to run the ball and all sorts of stuff for an offense.
I don't have as many concerns as you guys do with the down the field. I didn't see as many that I was overly concerned with where it was severe underthrows or things like that.
They weren't they were just off target throws for me.
Sure.
And I want to use the word severe. Like it's not like terrible, but you'll see it's a drastic switch.
But
like
I do
dominates the short, intermediate, in the middle.
But I do think that there is a difference between guys like Levis and Stroud and Richardson, where they have much stronger arms, I would say, overall, where it looks easy for them to do some of those things. One positive, and I was going to wait and see if anybody talked about it, but one positive that I do really want to make sure that I know on Bryce Young is he is a highly, highly intelligent player by all accounts.
Yep, very much.
They would talked about how quickly he could read defenses, and you can see that. You can see how quickly he can read things, get through his progressions quickly, which is a very, very important trait for the next level.
It is.
And they would talk about how they would give him the scouting report for the upcoming team on Sunday. And by Monday morning, every time he would have all these notes, all these questions, he had everything more or less mastered by the time that he would come in on Monday morning. So shows his intelligence level to be able to do that and process that quickly, but also his work ethic to make sure that he can get all that prepared.
And all that's fantastic, and all that's next level stuff. You know what I mean? That's stuff he's going to need to carry over, and he's going to need to be extra. You know what I mean? At his size, he has to be extraordinary in a lot of different ways for him, to succeed at the NFL level. I'm not 100% sold that he can do that quite yet.
Sure.
I do have some more film to watch. I'm not out on him by any stretch, but I'm not ready to say, hey, this guy is going to be a fantasy difference maker. And
sure.
That's where I have a hard time. How, even if he is still able to operate as an NFL quarterback, does he do anything exceptional where he's going to be this off the charts quarterback for fantasy purposes? Because he's not going to give you anything in the running game in the NFL.
Exactly where I was going to finish my statement was the one concern I have about Bryce Young. If Bryce Young finds success, not surprised in the least bit. The guy's super talented, very, very accurate, very smart. But will the limitations he has limit his fantasy production? You can't have this guy run. He'll be deceased. He can't run.
His kappa was detained.
Now, granted, guys like Devontae Smith, but
He'll be a chain mover runner.
He'll be a chain mover,
yes,
and
like what Kyler Murray does. He tries to run safe.
And he's really, he's really good at navigating the pocket and all sorts of everything around him.
Mahomes is kind of like
so
that
I think he's going to be able to. I think he's going to be able to get some good yards where things are breaking down in front of him, and he can just kind of sneak out and find a lane and
get 7-8 yards.
And get 7-8 yards. But that's not going to get you. That's not going to move the needle for fantasy purposes. That's great for your NFL team. That's great for moving the chains and having these nice long sustained drives and stuff like that. But from a fantasy standpoint, he's going to have to be. He's going to have to be Drew Brees to be
And I will say this, and with all of this being said, I think for fantasy purposes, his ceiling is probably the lowest of these four.
Yes.
I think he has the lowest ceiling. I think he has a very high floor, but I think he has a low ceiling.
Yeah, an NFL starter, but ceiling's limited, floor's safe as well. I would be very happy. So, full clarity, I have the top 5 quarterbacks. Me personally, I have it ranked C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker. Those are my 5 guys that I would rank them in that order. And with Richardson, I'll tell you why I have him as my 1B, and I'll tell you why I have C.J. Stroud as my 1A. It's in the next episode. But if I had Bryce Young, so I would go, Bijan Robinson, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and then at 4, I'm taking Bryce Young.
That's assuming those 4 top guys are top 10 picks, right?
Assuming they're top 10 picks. Anthony Richardson's got to go in the top 10.
Right.
To get him into this category, he has to go top 10. I assume he will after that combine, everything I'm hearing. If I was at 1-4 and Bryce Young's on the clock, and the person who has 1-1, and this is a situation where their team is really bad, and I know that Bryce Young's not going to make a difference on there, and I can get maybe 2-1 and they're first next year, so they can get Bryce Young, or say they love Will Levis, I would make that trade to put me in position to get Caleb Williams, or worst case, get Drake May or Marvin Harrison Jr. and get 2-1 and still get a quality player. I would make that trade.
You're talking about Superflex, obviously.
Superflex.
Yep.
And let everybody know when we're talking quarterbacks, it's always Superflex. Right. Because if in a 1 QB, I'm taking Anthony Richardson first.